What's up guys, Visual here, but you can call me James, and in this video I'll be showing you guys how to make an epic Fortnite banner. So guys, before we get into the video, I would just like to quickly thank bookmark.com for sponsoring this video. If you don't already know, Bookmark is one of the easiest and coolest website builders out there. The site lets you create your own personal website, whether that be a design portfolio or an online store, in the matter of minutes. It uses an AI website builder, meaning you can create a site with no technical knowledge whatsoever. So if this does interest you, make sure to head over to bookmark.com. The link's in the description. You can find more information on how to get started there. So guys, as you can see right now, this is the banner that I will be showing you how to make throughout this video. It's clean, easy to make, and as well as that, it's certainly an upgrade from my last Fortnite banner tutorial. If you do know your Photoshop basics and your way around the program, then hopefully this video will be easy to follow. The only resource that you will 100% need in order to follow along with the tutorial is going to be the assets pack. Essentially, this is a small pack that does contain all of the contents you need in order to follow along with the tutorial. So as you can see here, we have the font, so you can download that. As well as that, there is also the PSD document, which if you open up, you can see inside has all of the content you need. So it's got the layer styles, it's also got all of the images you need, and as well as that, I have included more so you can customize it and expand from the tutorial. If you do finish creating the banner and you want to improve on it even more, then I would certainly recommend one of my design packs, which are available on my design store. Of course, these are optional, however, I use them for my personal design, so if you want to take it to that one next step, then you can check them out. And with that being said, let's get started with the tutorial. Oh, and if we reach 400 likes on the video, then I'll leave the template PSD in the description. Okay guys, so to begin with, you will need to decide what type of banner you are creating. For this example, I've gone with a Twitter header. However, if you are going any other different route and you want to create a YouTube banner, for example, then you will need to go ahead and Google the sizing. In fact, I'll leave a link to a plain YouTube banner in the description so you can work from that template. Anyways, for Twitter, you want to make sure the width is on 3000, height on 1000. Everything else you can keep the same. The only other thing I change is the background contents to black, and you can press create once you are ready. Now that you have your blank document, you need to add in an image. Now you want to head over to the assets pack, open that up, and then head over to the wallpapers folder. From here, you want to select one of these wallpapers. I did include others that you can use. However, for this example and the one that I used for this one, I used number 1. So I'm simply going to click on it, drag and drop it into my header and adjust the sizing. Now that we have our image, we are going to add a gradient map on top. So head over to the color adjustments, go to gradient map, select the tab that opens up, and make sure you have the black to white color selected. Keep the black color how it is. However, on the right hand side, you want to select the white, double click on that. You then want to drag your slider down so that you get a dark gray color. It really doesn't matter how dark it is. Anything around about here is going to work fine, and you can press OK, OK again, and exit out of that once you are done. Now that we have the base of the background done, we are going to add our text and come back to the background in a minute. So open up your text by going to the text tool or selecting T on your keyboard. From there, you want to click anywhere on your screen and simply type in your text. So I'm going to type in name, for example, and I'm also going to make it white just for the sake of the tutorial. Make sure that your text is using the font called Burbank Big Regular and it is selected as black. If you haven't got this already, I have left a link to it in the description inside the assets pack, and you can install it from there. For the time being, it doesn't matter where the text is placed, but I'm just going to rearrange the sizing of it. As well as this, I'm also going to add the text on top. So in order to duplicate the text, Ctrl J on your keyboard, you can then move that up and change this layer. So I'm going to type your, and of course, in order to make it smaller, just press Ctrl T on your keyboard and hold down Shift whilst you make it smaller. If you do have text at the top, you want to make sure that it is fairly low down, not touching it, just a little space in between, and that will work fine. From there, you now want to actually select both your text layers or one if you just have one, and you want to press Ctrl T, and holding down Control, you want to select the top right hand corner and just drag this up. And basically what that will do is slant the text and just put it at a slight angle. You don't want to slant it too much, so I'm going to leave mine there, and you can just press enter once you are done. You then want to make sure both text layers are selected, so just control on them both again and press Ctrl J on your keyboard to duplicate them, and then Ctrl E to merge it into one single layer, and you can then move that below the other ones and just hide it because you are going to use that for the backing in a minute. The text is looking slightly plain, so what I'm going to do is open up the assets pack. You want to make sure that your layer styles group is open, and from there literally just double click on each layer and that will open up the blending options. So we're doing this one first here. You want to select new style and you can then name the style. I'm just going to keep it how it is and press OK once you are done. And if you click styles here at the top, you will have all of the layer styles you have saved, and if you scroll down to the bottom, of course the new ones will be there. Make sure you repeat this step for the other layer style, so new style, and save it, and then you can go back to your document and add these layer styles on. To add the layer style, once again double click on it, go to styles, scroll all the way down, and for the top text I'm going to use the nice white gradient, and then for the bottom text I'm going to use the yellow sort of orangey color. As you can see on the example, we have added more to the text than just the gradient. We've added this sort of like nice wavy effect and also these circles. In order to do this, you want to turn your text layers into normal layers, so press Control on them both and they will now be both selected, or if you're just using one, then just the one, and then right click it and go to rasterize type, and now these will just be normal layers and no longer be text layers. Now that you've rasterized the layer, you need to rasterize the layer style. Make sure that you don't have any drop shadows enabled. I know this one was enabled, so just disable it with the eye icon there, and you can then right click and go to rasterize layer style on both. Now that the text is simply one layer, we can add these effects on top of it. So really easy to do. You just want to go to the bottom text here, the name one for me, and you want to make a brand new layer that goes above it. After this, you want to go to your tools here and grab the lasso tool, and going from the left to the right, you want to create a sort of wave effect that's going at the bottom. It really doesn't matter if you don't do it perfect, and then just bring it all the way back round, and once you've done that, it will then be highlighted. Now what you want to do is grab your rectangle marquee tool, which is just below the move tool, and you want to right click inside that and go to fill. From there, literally just select any color. I'm going to go with black and press OK once you are done. Deselect this now. You want to press Ctrl D on your keyboard, and as you can see, it's deselected, and you now want to right click on that layer and create clipping mask. As you can see now, it's on the text. Of course, we do need to change the color of this, so you want to double click on that layer, go to styles, and you want to select that same layer style. You are actually going to disable some stuff and rearrange it a little bit though, so disable inner shadow. For gradient overlay, you want to actually reverse it, and drop shadow you can just remove, it's not really necessary, and you can press OK once you are done, and as you can see, this is what it looks like. We are now going to repeat this process for the top text, so make sure it is selected, make a brand new layer above it, go to the lasso tool once again, create that sort of wave effect using your mouse, bring it all the way back round, right click in the empty space, and you can go to fill from there, make sure black is selected. Oh, well, it doesn't actually matter if black's selected. Okay, clipping mask it once again. Now what you want to do is add the gradient on top of this. So double click on the layer, go to styles, scroll all the way down until you get to that white gradient one. Get rid of inner shadow and go to gradient overlay. And for this one, I'm going to get rid of reverse and press OK once you're done. Now what we are going to do is add these circles on top of the text, which are also known as half tones. Really simple to do this. You want to head over to the assets pack and open up the half tones and particles group, and from there make sure layer 1 is selected, and then simply drag and drop that into your document. You want to use the circles that are at the top of this image, and you are going to do each text one by one. So I'm going to do the bottom text first. I'm also going to rotate this image slightly, and you want to make sure that your circles are just going above that sort of wave effect. Of course, this is in the background, we want it only on the text, so in order to do that, all you need to do is clipping mask it on. So I'm just going to drag it so it's above the bottom text here but below the top one, and right click it and go to create clipping mask, and it should just be above that sort of wave layer we made, and also clipping masked onto the bottom text, if that makes sense. After this, you then want to actually change the blending mode of the layer, so select where it says normal and click on overlay, and it should look a whole lot better then. Once you have done that, you then want to do the same for the top text, so go ahead and drag and drop it in once again. Make sure it is of course above all of the other layers at the top, and readjust it slightly, and then once you have done that, clipping mask it onto that top text like so. You can once again change the blending mode, however with the white text it doesn't really make too much of a difference. One more thing I am going to do is actually reverse the gradient that is on that top text, like the wave effect one. So I'm going to go to gradient and just reverse it, only because I think it looks a little bit better that way round. There's also another little thing I am going to add, and that's going to be a stroke going around each part of the text. This is really easy to do. Select each one of your text layers. So I'm going to go with the top one here first, double click on it to open up the layer styles, go to stroke, make sure your color is selected as a full white color, press OK, and make sure your position is inside and the size is on around about 1, and you can keep the blend mode at normal. As you can see, if I just enable and disable it, it does add a nice sort of outline effect. So you can then repeat this process for the other text. So I'm going to double click on it, go to stroke and change the color to a nice bright yellow, and click OK from there. Now that you have the basics of the text done, we are going to add the backing, which will look like this once it is completed. So what you want to do is actually enable the layer that you hid at the start. Hopefully you still have it. It should be below all of your new text layers, and it should literally just be the text in a plain color. What you want to do once you have it enabled is add a stroke to it. Now you can do this in many different ways, however this is going to be the best option. So what you want to do is select filter here at the top, go to other, and then select minimum, and from here you want to make sure that preserve at the bottom is on squareness and the radius is on around about 11. Once you have done that, you then want to press enter on your keyboard or OK, and it will create a nice outline on the text. Now of course this isn't the right color, so we are going to change it. To change the color, make sure the layer is selected, double click on it to open up the blending options of course, and go to color overlay. From there you then want to select the existing color and change it to a dark gray. So I'm going to go with something around about here, so 232323. Once you've changed the color, you then want to add a drop shadow. You can alter these settings to ones of your choice. However, if you want to use the ones that I've got, I have the blend mode on multiply, a black color selected, the opacity on 30%, the distance on 17 pixels, spread on 0, and then the size on 16 pixels. Now what you want to do is add an inner shadow, so go to inner shadow at the top and copy down these settings. Really simple. You want to make sure the blend mode is on overlay, a white color is selected, the opacity is on 100%, the distance is on 4, you can keep the angle how it is by the way, the choke is on 0 and the size is on 0. Now what I'm going to do is actually enhance these like sort of grey parts even more in order to make it look a little bit more 3D. So to do that, you want to actually make sure that your backing layer is selected, press Ctrl J on your keyboard. You then want to change the fill to 0%. So underneath opacity where it says fill, move the slider all the way down to 0. You then want to double click on that layer and that will open up the layer styles page, and literally just deselect all of those because you won't need them. Select stroke at the top and make sure your color is selected as white, and you can keep everything how it is. Make sure the position is inside and the size is fairly low. I'm going to keep mine at 1, and after that you can press OK, and as you can see this is what it will look like. As you can see now, this stroke is way too strong, so what we are going to do is change the blending mode. However, before we do that, we need to erase the bottom parts. To do this, you want to right click on that layer, go to rasterize layer style, so it's just a normal layer, and you want to go and grab your eraser tool. Make sure the size is on around about 400 and literally just erase off the bottom parts of the text so that the outline is only at the top. You can also grab a smaller brush if you wish and just erase off all of these small parts. The stroke is still way too strong, so in order to change that, we are going to click on normal here at the top and change the blending mode to overlay. In order to make this text look even more 3D, what I am going to do is click on this layer, which is actually the original like text backing, the one that's like gray. You want to make sure it's selected, press Ctrl J on your keyboard, and that will duplicate that layer. You now have two of the same layers. Make sure that the bottom one is selected, and you want to double click on it, go to color overlay, and change the color from that dark gray to even darker, so literally almost fully black. You then want to press OK. You can also reduce the drop shadow slightly if you wish, and you can then press OK on that layer style. Now using the arrow keys on your keyboard, you want to move this layer down, and as you do so you will begin to see it, and it creates this nice sort of 3D effect on that backing text layer. I think this looks really nice. You can move it down however far you want. I'm going to move mine to around about there. The text now is basically almost done. One more thing I am going to do is add an inner shadow on each text layer in order to make it look even more 3D. So I'm going to go to the top one here, double click on it, and go to inner shadow and make sure the blend mode is on overlay, the color is on white, and the distance you want to move down. So I'm going to move my distance down to around about 6, and you can press OK once you are done. Do the exact same for the other text layer. So double click on it, go to inner shadow, move the distance down a bit to around about 6 and press OK once you are done. Now what you want to do is actually group all of these text layers together. It will make it a lot easier and cleaner for your PSD. So shift on the top, shift on the bottom, and then press that little group icon, and you can name this then text once you are done. Okay, now what I'm missing is the character. This is really easy to add in. You want to go to the characters folder in the assets pack, use any one you want. I'm going to use number 1 and simply just drag and drop it in. You can have your text layer below the character and have it looking like this, or you can put the text layer above. Personally, I think it looks better above, but it is up to you. Now that we have our character in, we're going to add some color on the left hand side. In order to do that, you want to make sure that this black and white gradient map is selected, and you want to go to the color adjustments at the bottom and select gradient map, because we are going to make a new one. From there, you want to select on the color, and I have a preset for this. However, you will need to of course make it for yourself. For the left color here, I have a nice dark orange color. This has the hashtag 936800, so you can simply put that in and you will get the exact same color. Once you have done that, you can then press OK, and you need to then make sure that the right hand side has a nice bright yellow, which is hashtag FFD200. Once you've put in that color, you can then press OK, and this slider would be all the way on the right normally. However, what you want to do is select it, click and hold, and literally just drag it all the way to the left, around about there, I'm going to say. Obviously, just leaving around about that much space between the two colors, and that will create this nice yellow sort of orangey gradient on top. Now that you have this color, of course, you only want to keep it on the left hand side. So in order to get rid of it on the right, you want to grab any tool really. I'm going to use the marquee tool and literally just select all of this right hand side up to the character. Once your gradient map layer is selected, press delete on your keyboard, and as you can see, it will now only be on the left. The next step after this is going to be adding in lighting and the effects, as you can see here. The first one I'm going to add is an explosion. So open up the assets pack and go inside the group that is literally labeled explosions, and from there you want to grab number 1 and just drag and drop that into your document. Make sure that this layer is actually behind the character, and from there you can press Ctrl T on your keyboard and make it smaller or bigger if you wish. I'm going to make mine fairly small. I'm going to put mine around about there in sizing. That looks good. If I do zoom in here, you can see on the left hand side that this is a very harsh edge, so I'm just going to grab the eraser tool and just erase that part just because it's slightly annoying me. Now what you want to do is add the second explosion. So go back to the assets pack, make sure layer number 2 is selected, and simply just drag and drop that into your document. Make sure that this layer is above the other explosion but also still behind that Fortnite character. You now want to change the blending mode of this layer to screen. Really easy to do so. As you can see, it looks good on the left hand side because this is a yellow explosion. However, on the right hand side, it doesn't really work because this is sort of got the black and white theme. Therefore, what I'm going to do is grab my marquee tool, which is just below the move tool, and select this right hand side of the explosion. Now that this is selected, you want to right click on your mouse, go to layer via cut, and now this right side will have its own layer. From there, you then want to go to image at the top, select adjustments, and go to black and white. And as you can see now, this explosion will be black and white, and I think it works a lot better. We are now going to add a little more lighting, so make a brand new layer above those explosions but still below that Fortnite skin. Go to the brush tool, make sure your brush is on around about 900 and the hardness is on 0 still, and from there you want to also make sure that the foreground color is a bright yellow. Press OK and hover over your character and literally just click once on your screen, and it will add a nice lighting effect behind it. Now what you want to do is change the blending mode of this to screen. It's added a really nice effect. What I'm going to do is actually move it over to the left a bit more, and yeah, that looks good. It has created a sort of mucky yellow color on the right hand side, so in order to get rid of that, just grab your marquee tool and just cut it. Literally as simple as that. Now what I'm going to do is make a brand new layer once again. Grab grab our brush tool. This time I'm going to make the foreground color a nice plain white. Select anywhere on your character, and as you can see, it will add the lighting behind it. We already have a light on the left hand side, so we can grab our marquee tool and just erase that side. Press delete on our keyboard, and now what you want to do is of course change this blending mode to screen. You can lower down the opacity if you wish, but I'm going to keep it at 100%. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is add some lighting on top of the character. So go back to your assets pack, grab explosion number 2, drag and drop that in. Once you've done that, you want to make sure that this layer is above everything at the very top. Now what you want to do is press Ctrl J on your keyboard to duplicate the explosion, and you want to then hide the bottom one for now. With the top one selected, you want to change the blending mode to screen, and as you can see, it will add lighting to the top of the character, but it is way too much. So grab your eraser tool and literally just erase off the right hand side, keeping only like the parts that are on the edges, which add a nice sort of yellow light to the character. And yeah, I'm going to keep it at that. Once that is done, you can now re-enable that other layer. This time you want to go to image adjustments, select black and white, and press OK once you are done. Now what you want to do is change the blending mode to screen, and you want to erase off all of the left hand side because we don't want that there. We only want it on the right, just so it's on the character a bit, but not too much. Like I said before, only on the sides. You can also erase the parts that are coming out a bit because they aren't really needed. I'm going to keep it on the text a bit, but apart from that, I think that looks great. The lighting is almost done. I'm going to add some on top of the text, I believe. So in order to do so, just make a brand new layer above everything. Make sure that the brush size is on around about, I'm going to say 500 or so. Make sure that the foreground color is on yellow, and literally just select in the middle of your text. Once you've done that, you can then change the blending mode to screen, lower down the opacity, and it will add a nice lighting effect on the text. If you do have white text in there as well, you can repeat this step, make a brand new layer. This time make sure that the foreground color is on white, and select in the middle of your white text and change the blending mode to screen, and lower down the opacity of that one as well to around about 20. I'm going to go with. We are now going to add some smoke to the header. Really easy to do. You want to open up your assets pack, make sure the smoke group is open, grab layer number 1, and simply just drag and drop it into your document. From here you want to go to image, select adjustments, and go to black and white. That will make the smoke a nice white color, which will of course match this right hand color scheme. You want to avoid putting it on the left where the yellow is, because we're going to add some smoke in a minute to go there. You can also press Ctrl J on your keyboard, duplicate it, and move it over to the right a bit if you wish, just so it covers up the whole header. In order to add the smoke on the yellow side, it's basically the same process. However, we're going to change the color before we drag and drop it. Open up your assets pack, make sure that the smoke layer is selected. Go to gradient map, and from there you want to select a black to yellow gradient. So go to the black and white one and just change it to a nice bright yellow color. From there you can press OK, and then just drag that slider more to the left just so it looks a little bit more yellow, and press OK and exit out of that once you are done. Now that the smoke is yellow, you want to press Ctrl on both layers to actually select them both. Press Ctrl E, and from there you can now move this back to screen and drag and drop it into your document, and as you can see, it will add some nice yellow smoke to the left hand side. I'm now going to add some particles. Go back to your assets pack to do this. Open up the halftones and particles folder, of course, grab layer number 2 and simply just drag and drop that in. I'm going to add some to the left hand side, and I'm also going to add some to the right, so press Ctrl J and move them over. There we go. I think that looks perfect. Okay, so now that the banner's almost done, we are going to add a few little color effects just to make it look that little bit better. The first one is going to be a vignette. Really easy to do so. Make sure your color adjustments are selected and go to curves. From there, you want to grab the bottom part of this graph, which does look a bit complicated, and you just want to click and drag it down to the bottom here. You don't want to move it too much. My input is on 29 and the output is on 21. Just make sure your graph looks similar to that, and you can exit out of that once you are done. After this, you want to press Ctrl I on your keyboard, and that will now invert that curves layer, which basically means if we grab our brush tool and make sure the color is selected as a full white color, I'm going to actually increase the brush size to around about 500. Now if I paint over this image using that brush tool, as you can see, it will darken everything I brush over. So if I brush over the sides like I'm doing so, it will add a nice vignette effect. You can't really see it too well over the yellow, however it works perfectly on the right hand side. The next step that I would take would be adding social medias or sponsors. As you can see on the example, I added sponsors and also a FaZe logo on the left, but I will leave that completely up to you guys. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to leave mine how it is and add the final color correction. Press shift on your top layer, shift on the bottom, select the group icon, and all of your layers will be merged into a group. You can now press Ctrl J on your keyboard to duplicate that group, and then Ctrl E to merge it into one single layer. If I go ahead and move this about, you can see that it is not properly cut. So in order to actually crop it, we're going to go to our marquee tool just below the move tool. We're going to select it all and then go to layer via cut, and from here we are able to add the final CC on top. To add the color correction, you want to go to filter, you want to select camera raw filter, and this will open up a new window within your Photoshop. This may look complicated at first if you haven't used it, but it is actually fairly simple. So first of all, you want to grab your temperature slider and move it over to the left to around about -8. After this, you then want to go down to contrast. You want to increase this to around about plus, I'm going to say +20. And then for the highlights, you want to decrease this to around about -10. Finally, for this tab, you want to actually increase the saturation. I'm going to put mine on +7, and you can then move on to the other tabs. The only other tab that I will be using is the third one, which is the two triangles, and it's called detail. And I'm going to actually increase the sharpen to around about 24. Once you have done that, you can press OK, and as you can see now, it will add those final effects onto your header, and it should look something along the lines of this. Anyways guys, that's it for the header. If you have any questions or need some help regarding the tutorial, simply just pop it in the comments down below and I'll be sure to reply to everyone. Also, if you did make it this far into the video and you watched it all, then show me by commenting down below #road to 50k, because we are almost there. And that reminds me, by the way, make sure you're subbed with post notifications on. Also, if you did enjoy the video and you would like to see more tutorials, then please leave a like. That would be much appreciated. If we can reach 400 likes on this video, which is a high like goal, but if we can reach that, I will leave the template PSD to this in the description down below. Finally guys, if you are interested in checking out my design store, the link to it is in the description down below. Over there I have a load of my personal graphic design packs which I use for my own designs, so if you're interested, make sure to check those out. And yes guys, as I said, hopefully you did go on to enjoy the video. This has been Visual or James, and I'm out. Peace.